G'day there. Welcome to the Closing Bell again with Murray Dawes. I'm the Investment Director at Australian Small Cap Investigator and also run a trading service called Pivot Trader. And I do these just for traders to give them a sense of what I've seen in the week and how I see things panning out going forward. Now, it's been a pretty boring old week this week with the ASX pretty much treading water near all-time highs. We saw a nice bounce back in the S&P 500 with a bit of flip-flopping by the US Fed at 1 minute saying they're about to raise rates a bit earlier than everyone expects in a couple of years, and then backtracking and making sure the party can continue. So we've seen a bounce back to all-time highs there. But in our market, we're 3 trading days away from the end of the financial year, and there's always a bit of shenanigans going on there. With the markets rallying so strongly over the last year, there's plenty of profits to go around, and people are dumping the stocks that haven't been making money. The ones that have been losing the money, they are pushing them out the door pretty rapidly to offset against their gains, the tax loss selling. So it's been quite pronounced this year, and there's a few stocks that I will take you through that could be in for a bit of a bounce back in July, and many other stocks out there as well that you'll probably see have a nice bounce back in the first couple of weeks of July. So to kick off, I'll show you a chart of Woodside Petroleum. So this is a line chart of Woodside Petroleum. The blue line there is Woodies, and the orange line is Brent crude oil prices, which are continuing to march higher at a rapid pace. And you can see, looking over the last few years, there's been quite a nice tight correlation between Woodside Petroleum and the oil price. And look, over the last few months, we've seen really quite a pronounced divergence shaping up here, with oil prices continuing to march higher and Woodside really on the nose. And there is, of course, some selling in relation to the ESG issues, people seeing a bit of extra risk around owning oil and gas stocks. But as we head into the end of June, I am seeing a bit more pronounced selling coming into Woodside. And that could be on the back of some tax loss selling. And with this huge gap opening up between the price of Woodside and where oil prices are actually heading, really, I'd say that's a pretty good candidate to have some sort of bounce back, especially if oil prices keep blasting off to the upside. Now, Woodside Petroleum is in the Pivot Trader portfolio, just to make sure you know, and that there's no conflict of interest there. And moving on to another few stocks out there that I reckon are suffering from some selling pressure as a result of the coming end to the financial year. And we have Integrated Research here, IRI. They've been under pretty strong selling pressure after a big spike towards the end of last year. So they really have sold off pretty hard. And you can see just this month, they are really extending to the downside as we head towards the end of that financial year. And just technically, I don't mind the look of this chart with a very long-term uptrend you can see there. And really what I like to see are large pullbacks in price to the buy zone of major waves. So I'm just keeping an eye on this one as it heads down into the buy zone of that most recent wave higher from 2019 to late 2020. And so any nice reversal off that area and buying pressure could look pretty good to me. And with that extra selling happening now on the back of the end of financial year, I'll be interested to see how that one performs going forward. Also, another one I quite like is Whisper, but that has been struggling of late. And so I'd say it's seeing some tax loss selling. You can see this last month, it's now sitting on the lows there at the moment. But that one had a massive rally over the past year. and really has been sort of selling off quite sharply over that last period, the last sort of 6 months. So there may be a bit more downside to come in that one. But I do like the company, probably down towards that 125 to 175 zone is where we may end up heading. But again, you want to see what happens in July as we roll over to that new financial year. And one that's been in the papers quite a lot lately is Nuix. That's the one that listed and then came out with profit downgrade after profit downgrade, and class actions are coming. It's one that you'd be pretty careful trying to step into this one, falling from $12 down to around $2.50 right here. But I'd say there'd be some people sitting on some pretty bad losses that would be dumping as we head towards the end of financial year. So there will be some point where that one will bounce, but you'd really be quite a brave person jumping into this one. This is the daily chart. You can see creating new lows. So really with that one, you'd want to see strong signs of a reversal, a weekly buy pivot or what have you before you'd be willing. But again, you'd be waiting to see what happens in early July, whether that marks the end of the selling pressure. And just to show you, again, a smaller cap stock where you see it's been having a bit of trouble. This is Staveley Minerals, Copper Explorer. Again, this one's in our portfolio. Unfortunately, it's been a bit of hard work, this one. But you can see just the acceleration to the downside in the last few weeks. And that really is that sign of tax loss selling. As you approach that end date, people have to get out if they want to before the deadline on the 30th. And as you approach that date, the selling can actually accelerate and really push things down. So if you end up having that capitulation event and we go into early July, that can be a candidate for a bit of a short squeeze or a bit of a bounce, from oversold levels. So that's it really for this week. It's been a pretty dull old week in the markets, quite frankly. There hasn't been that much going on. Gold hasn't moved around much. Oil's still rallying, which is fine. Our market trying to hold in there at all-time highs, but as usual, I'm always a bit wary of the false break of all-time highs. So keep your wits about you out there. But yes, I think the key opportunity going forward is waiting for the end of that tax loss selling and looking for the bounce. So good luck out there. I will come back next week with the closing bell again. Cheers.